Trump's legal hands, if you will, or legal fate, in the hands of the jury next week in terms of that criminal trial in New York for falsifying business records, those charges. He pleaded not guilty. But a lot of support here. And how did the messaging land? Ameer Benno is an attorney and legal analyst. David Katz is a former assistant U.S. attorney and criminal defense attorney. Ameer, starting with you, you're a New Yorker. Your thoughts on that turnout there in the Bronx? He is facing this criminal trial, 34 felony charges against him, yet still turning out somewhat tens of thousands, according to his campaign, Ameer.
Yeah, it's remarkable. I mean, a deep blue of the Bronx and a diverse crowd also, all sorts of ethnic makeup, lots of minority representation. And that sends such a powerful message. And there's so many people, even in a deep blue area like that, who either recognize his message, who are upset with the current administration, or who feel like justice has been railroaded. He's been railroaded by the justice system. And regardless of your political stripes, nobody wants to support that sort of thing. So it was a tremendous turnout. And we'll see what happens next week when we ultimately go to jury deliberations on this case.
Right. The jury, by the way, instructed not to consume news media when it comes to the trial. But David, that might be hard to avoid when you're seeing, you know, the face of the defense is out speaking to crowds of New Yorkers who clearly support him. What's running through the jurors' minds?
Well, I think it's very hard to ignore. It's a non-sequestered jury. And if I can just say, you know, I'm a political moderate, I'm a centrist, but I'm someone who thought that after the federal prosecutors in the Biden administration declined to go on this case with the same quantum of evidence, I didn't think that the DA's office in New York should pick it up. I always thought that there were problems with the case. Having said that, I do believe that there will be a conviction on felony charges. And one of the reasons is because of the jury instructions. They're very important here. There'll be a misdemeanor, but the misdemeanor is so old by now, it's barred under the statute of limitations. The only way to bump this case up to a felony is if Trump specifically intended to commit some other crime, but they will not define, this judge will not define for the jury what that separate crime is. So if 4 of them think he committed this misdemeanor with the intention of committing state campaign violations, and another 4 jurors think, no, it was federal campaign violations, and yet another 4 think it was tax crimes, they ought to hang it. That's a lack of unanimity. But with these instructions, that would be considered a unanimous verdict as long as they think that Trump was doing something wrong beyond the mere falsification.
So you think there may be a conviction, David?
Well, here's the problem, is that I think that without that unanimity, 4 of them think one way, 4 of them think another, and another 4. I mean, the way that the judge is instructing it, the only defense would be that Trump wanted to show one of his friends that he was richer than he was for no improper purpose, except no unlawful purpose, except to just show off the false business records. And so he bumped them up to show it to some colleague of his. That would be a lack of any unlawful purpose. But beyond that, every misdemeanor becomes a felony, doesn't it? If all you have to have is some unlawful purpose, unless it's just showing the records off to somebody, you know, to impress a woman or to impress an old friend, everything's a felony under this judge's instructions.
Let's get to Ameer. Your thoughts on what could happen, and again, hinging on the jury instructions from the judge, do you see it the same way as David?
Well, I think there's always a risk of, obviously, in this venue of conviction. I think there's also the risk, you know, not a risk, but there's always the possibility the judge is reserved on the motion, trial order of dismissal, saying that the district attorney failed to establish the elements of its case. It's a high hill to climb for the defense to succeed on that, but it's possible because their evidence was so thin. And ultimately, I didn't see uploaded to the website the final jury instructions. I know that is what David was discussed at the charge conference, but we don't know ultimately how they're going to be charged with respect to what crime they're saying that he intended to conceal. That is really the linchpin of this. And so once we have that information, that's going to actually factor in strongly into the closing arguments of the parties. And it's very possible that there will be a hung jury. I think that that's probably more likely than there will be a conviction.
Okay, very interesting perspectives, gentlemen. Discussing today, Ameer Benno and David Katz. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend.